Thanks plans to distribute food hampers worth more than $30 to the unemployed and needy, but the recipients will have to work for the groceries. They will have to make a $15 donation and do 2 hours community service before they collect the reward. Thanks officially opened at its factory in Wickham today.
People who are concerned with it are very, very enthusiastic about self-help, looking after one another and community service, and they're very, very admirable ideals.
Those who benefit from Thanks will spend time helping others in need. Their community service can be anything, from mowing lawns to volunteering for other charities such as the Salvation Army.
I actually saw it on the Ray Martin show and went to Sydney to find more about it. We brought the idea to Newcastle, and from that we've just basically developed it.
120 volunteers have already signed up for Thanks and 180 people have registered to receive hampers. 32-year-old Steve Kebblewhite could be called an expert on the plight of the needy. He found himself unemployed recently, trying to feed his wife and 3 young children.
Well, being unemployed myself, I turned around and I thought the idea is great. It's going to cut my shopping bill down on a fortnightly basis. And I thought, well, if it's going to do it for me, how many other people will it benefit up here?
Jason Neuenhoff, NBN News. With her feet back on familiar territory, Claire McHugh-Shahani was strutting the boards at the King Street space. Casting a watchful eye over Claire was her longtime friend and the Hunter Regional Dance Company director, Bronwyn White. Claire dances professionally in Arizona, America, but after more than a decade she has returned to Newcastle to work with Bronwyn.
It's been a long time and I'm glad she's here for 2 reasons. One, that we've never seen her dance. She's been in America for 14 years, and it's just great to have her home to perform in Newcastle where she's from.
Wonderful, because I've done so much travelling over 14 years and touring and gone to Asia, and to dance and to do something from where you come from, I think is enriching to anybody.
For 3 years, Bronwyn and her talented dancers have performed to packed houses at the tiny King Street Space Theatre. But arguably one of the dance company's most important performances will be on Friday week when it plays a part in the grand opening of Newcastle's Civic Theatre. Some of Bronwyn's dancers were at the theatre today, meeting 2 other stars who will perform in the Civic's opening, actors Geraldine Turner and John McTernan, who performed at the theatre before its $12 million facelift.
Godspell in 1973, I think.
You were 5, were you?
Yes, I was 5 at the time. Thanks, Geraldine.
It's all right.
The actors will combine with dancers and musicians in the world premiere of A Rare Jewel. The show will be an artistic mirror on the rebirth of the Grand Old Theatre. Jason Neuenhoff, NBN News.
Hundreds made their way to the Redemptorist monastery just before nightfall to take part in the popular Catholic tradition. This year is the 45th annual celebration of the Perpetual Novena ceremony at Mayfield. The candlelit procession made its way around the grounds carrying the decorated icon of the Mother of Perpetual Help. The ceremony gives followers the chance to pray, to thank and help the Mother of God for her help and guidance. A display of an Aboriginal Madonna was also included in honour of the Year of the Indigenous People.
Today's visit by Parliamentary Health Secretary Dr Brian Pizzuti was welcomed by the people of the coalfields. Used to having their services downgraded, Dr Pizzuti was in the area to open 3 facilities costing over $1 million. The first was at Curry Hospital. This building was the original nurses' quarters and was more recently used for storage. With a little paint and a lot of hard work, it will house the community health centre and the aged care assessment team. With hospital stays being shortened, Dr Pizzuti says the government is making sure the necessary community care is available.
The length of time you have to be away from your home is reducing all the time, but if that's going to continue, then we have to have the community comfortable and confident that the services to be provided for them at home are going to be there and they're going to be what they want them to be.
In line with that, Cessnock's $400,000 community health centre was also opened. It stands alongside a new drug and alcohol facility which will incorporate the region's second methadone program.
Our planning has shown that there's a need for more than one methadone unit in the Hunter Valley, and up until today people have had to travel down to Newcastle from this part of the Hunter Valley.
Also on the agenda today, the launch of Cessnock Hospital's upgraded X-ray department. The Cessnock community, helped along by the state government, financed the $850,000 improvements. Jodie McKay, NBN News. Senator Collins's office today confirmed that the minister supports the Curry option ahead of 4 other routes. An environmental impact statement will now be carried out to determine whether it's viable. That should take around 12 months. Cessnock Mayor Marie Callaghan supports the Curry extension to the freeway. She says it will stop roads in the area from being destroyed.
Mainly to do away with the national highway traffic and the heavy vehicles that are continually coming through our residential areas and our central business district.
And the Mayor says if the Curry route is chosen, then it could help create jobs.
What we'd be doing as a council is initiating a new industrial area. We'd be trying to interest factories from Sydney to relocate here in Curry. The land is cheaper, the floor space is cheaper. They'd have instant access to the port and to Sydney, and it would create a lot of jobs.
While planning is now underway, it could be up to 20 years before the link between the F3 and the New England is completed.
An agricultural revolution dawned when the sounds of an oil-powered generator first echoed across the quiet paddocks of Tokal Estate. Electric light bathed Charles Boyd Alexander's homestead, and a 1920s Rolls-Royce joined the tractor in the barn.
There's great foresight in setting the college up, but especially from that of C.B. Alexander, seeing his estate being put to the use of student training, and then the work and vision by the late E.A. Hunt, who built Tokal, and now we're taking on the tradition.
Students of agriculture at Tokal College, built on the estate, have had a hand in restoring much of the old property, its stables, slaughterhouse, blacksmith shop and machinery. Farm skills such as horse breaking and training and beef cattle studies were on show at an open day. The restoration work has been funded by bequests and matched dollar for dollar by federal government grants. A further $30,000 bequest was announced today.
Mrs. Nan Klinger unfortunately passed away some weeks ago. She and her husband visited Tokal in 1987. They'd been around the world 45 times, and they came to Tokal for 2 hours and subsequently changed their wheels.
A plaque was unveiled celebrating the restoration works, and an official function welcomed Di Bentley, an agriculture consultant from Gunnedah, as first woman office bearer of the C.B. Alexander Foundation.
John Bertrand is well aware his decision will be worth millions, and during his tour of Southport this afternoon he wasn't going to be tempted to let the cat out of the bag. But he did hint Newcastle at this stage has a strong advantage.
One of the key aspects is our ability to make modifications quickly and get them back onto the water for our testing and our racing. So it's really the logistics, and of course one of the pluses for Newcastle is that it's close to Sydney.
Since September, he's been to the Gold Coast 3 times looking at the facilities on offer, but only once to Newcastle, something the Newcastle Bid Committee feels reflects badly on their opposition.
They've got all sorts of problems up there in terms of crossing the bar, and they have to build facilities which we have already available here. So in that regard, Newcastle is certainly ahead of Surface.
The boss of the Southport Yacht Club is also worried that Newcastle may have done better work with the calculator.
I think it'll be a commercial decision, I do. It's got to be a cost-free project for them to be here, and I believe Newcastle have got very close to that, but I don't think they have got it cost-free.
The final decision won't be made until late Tuesday night and announced on Wednesday. If Newcastle wins, the State Dockyard will be the yacht base, with a mobile home park set up in the Honeysuckle area for the crews to live in.
Semi-trailer's been coming up around the roundabout and he's overturned, and we got a fairly big spill of sump oil coming out of the first compartment because the lid wasn't sealed properly.
And so began a massive clean-up operation by fire officers, police, environment protection officers, Maitland Council and oil truck operators.
We've contained the oil to prevent it from going down the gutter here with this dam. We've also blocked it off over there. We've prevent it from going into the drain over there, and what's already gone down the drain, we've also got another dam at the back over there to stop it from going into Talara Swamp.
Traffic was directed around the spill at the roundabout near Maitland Hospital as emergency workers spent more than 2 hours containing and clearing up the mess. The tanker was towed away late last night after an oil truck collected the remaining oil. The 29-year-old driver from Tamworth suffered minor injuries in the crash. Police are still investigating the incident and no charges have been laid. Jason Jornhoff, NBN News. NBN News.
A stolen 2-ton tip truck was used to back into the roller door of a cigarette warehouse at Tuggerah. After their first unsuccessful attempt to break through, the bandits fled, only to return a short time later to try again. This time the police gave chase. Officers said the truck and its 3 occupants headed down a dirt road which led to the Wyong River. The truck was driven into the river and sank. A man was picked up by police on the bank soon after, but 2 others managed to elude police searching bush with a sniffer dog. The truck was salvaged today. The attempted break and enter was the latest in a spate of recent thefts in the area. Andrew Lobb, NBN News.
Oxley Airlines has begun 2 return flights each weekday. This will find people in Canberra just 50 minutes after leaving Williamtown aboard this Beechcraft King Air 200. It's specially configured for the service, with club seating providing plenty of conference room for the maximum 7 passengers. Although expensive, the trade-off is a journey 1.5 hours quicker than going via Sydney, and to the target market, time is money. It also means far fewer hassles for people like the politicians invited aboard today's inaugural flight. They can spend an extra hour in bed, especially on Mondays, and still be in Canberra the time they used to be. Oxley Airlines says the service will be expanded to 7 days a week eventually, as demand dictates.
The breakers turned up the heat from the start and the pressure forced Brunswick to resort to any tactic to stop the attack. Unfortunately for Archie McGeechee, it was seen by the ref and he was given his marching orders, leaving Warren Spink to put away the penalty. 18 minutes later, John Maguire delivered a perfectly weighted cross for Rod Brown, who coolly tucked it away for Breakers' goal number 2. Brunswick didn't seem to be interested after that, and the score could have been much bigger if Nick Meredith had had his eye in. The youth team also won 5-0 against the ACT. This Friday the Breakers are at home to Sydney United.
The new primary response unit has begun duties in Newcastle as part of an ambulance service evaluation of the new breed vehicle. Currently being exported by Tamworth ambulance builder JCAB to the Middle East, the four-wheel drive unit comprises a GMC utility body and a drop-in modular compartment for patients. JCAB has developed 2 vehicles which are now being assessed, and the company believes they will offer a range of advantages for the state's ambulance fleet. The 6.5-litre turbocharged diesel prototype is being assessed by Newcastle officers for a fortnight. Meantime, the first of the F100 Fords used by Hunter Ambulance has been handed over for restoration. Car 35, which started life at Hamilton Station in 1968, will be restored by Newcastle Historic Commercial Vehicle Association under an agreement with the ambulance service.
Dress rehearsal and 10 of Newcastle's most talented and experienced actresses are preparing to step on stage. Director Julie Black has brought them together for a reunion of sorts in a production about a reunion of ex-showgirls. The similarities between the plot and the players don't end there.
Some of them would have been doing theatre, I reckon, for at least 30 years, just like they are in the show.
In Follies, the girls are reunited. Theatre is about to be torn down, but in the theatre lurk the ghosts of the past, who give the audience some idea of the ex-Follies' heyday. Beyond the sequins and razzmatazz, it's a musical about human folly, and from the director's chair, a challenge to stage.
It's the first show I've ever come across with so many numbers. There's 22 songs in it, and practically everyone has at least a solo in it. And it's just wonderful. In each case, it shows their experience and shows their talent.
Follies opens tomorrow at the Newcastle University Drama Theatre and plays 3 nights a week until December the 4th.
The former office block in Hunter Street has been idle for several years. Sold for $600,000 to a Sydney solicitor at Newcastle Council's overdue rates auction last year, Laytech House is now destined to make a comeback. Newcastle architect Edward Duke says plans for the project are well advanced.
Getting very close to finalising the schemes, putting it in for a development approval, and we should see completion of the project by about June 95.
To be known as City West Apartments, there'll be service facilities, with the 11th and 12th floors being used for penthouses and capturing some of the best views in the city.
Something that Newcastle's wanted for a long time. I mean, there are serviced apartments in Newcastle, but not run as a larger concern, such as this one will be.
It's estimated the upgrading will cost several $1 million, with work expected to begin next year.
Rachel Burgess began postgraduate studies at Newcastle University a year ago. The Limeburners Creek girl won the prestigious Canson Award from 150 other entries with this lithograph entitled Soul Keeper, a memorial to her grandmother.
I felt that I had a lot of grief and feelings that I didn't know how to deal with, and I felt that doing it through my work was the most productive way.
Rachel heads to France in February, courtesy of the award.
After I get over the shock of winning it, I think when I'm over there, I'll be working in a Paris print workshop for a week, and it'll give me the opportunity to see a lot of processes and technical processes that I wouldn't get to see in Australia.
While Rachel is only halfway through her course, 21 students finished their diploma today. The works were assessed this afternoon and are part of an exhibition which opens at the university tonight.
We've got students from 7 different disciplines. They cover plant and wildlife illustration, sculpture, painting, printmaking, photography and ceramics and fibre art. So it's quite a diverse range of media areas. Normally you can pick one media area, ceramics or painting, and say that's very, very strong, but this year it's hard to pick out the strongest area. They're all very strong. The students have worked extremely hard and have excelled themselves. I think it's very exciting.
The allocation to upgrade the Anderson Drive New England Highway intersection comes only weeks before traffic flow through the area is expected to increase significantly. Canberra's contribution of $2.35 million is more than half the money needed for the interchange. It's a joint funding arrangement with the state government. A half interchange has been recommended after investigations found the full interchange couldn't be justified because of current traffic volumes. Local state member John Price has called for an urgent start to work on what he describes as one of the worst accident traffic black spots in the Lower Hunter. Newcastle Lord Mayor Councillor John McNaughton is awaiting final clarification of what will be built at Taro.
We need to now complete the designs of the interchange and see that it's put in as we want. I don't quite understand what a half interchange is, but we've got the designs well underway for approval through the RTA and the federal government, and I've no doubt it'll be right.
While the state has agreed to put $1.85 million toward the Taro project, it's believed funding may not be available until next year. A construction date for the project is yet to be set. Woolworths is a major part of Mayfield's central business district but is planning to relocate its operation. The company wants to proceed with plans to develop a neighbouring vacant site in Maitland Road, bounded by Valencia and Newcastle streets. A development application lodged with Newcastle Council says the supermarket-only complex will have 4,600 square metres of floor space and parking for 270 vehicles. The Mayfield store will be the blueprint for Woolworths' next generation of supermarkets. A draft local environment plan for the site is on public display as the developer moves to rezone the rear section of the property for the facility. Plans for a supermarket on the site have existed since 1985. However, after gaining approval in the late 1980s with 50 conditions for the development, the proposal lapsed last year. Public comment on the latest plan closed with Newcastle Council at the end of the month.
Christina Lunn has cared for a 31-year-old nephew for most of his life. His mental illness has special needs. However, at the age of 71, Christina is worried about her nephew's future.
Well, I have a lot of concerns when I won't be around because he relies on me so much. I cook for him and I do his washing and more or less supervise in a way because he needs continuous supervision.
Christina says there aren't enough community services for people with mental illness. Federal Human Rights Commissioner Bertrand has been critical of the absence of help for carers. His inquiry also found that the lack of suitable accommodation was the single biggest obstacle to the rehabilitation of the mentally ill. Singled out were large hostels in the Cooranbong area, which house people from across northern New South Wales. In response to the criticism, a task force will soon be established to develop other accommodation options for people with chronic mental illness.
Well, what we're looking at, of course, is just normal houses and just renting houses in the community. Of course, for this to succeed, we're going to need the support of the community.
Dr Smythe says mental health services in rural areas are being expanded.
We'd anticipate the need for people in the North Coast and New England to come down to the Hunter for treatment of a mental illness will start to diminish, particularly now that Tamworth Base Hospital has established an acute inpatient unit.
Jane Anderson, NBN News.
The biggest problem in Lake Macquarie is sedimentation. Every time it rains, topsoil and loose debris are washed into stormwater drains and eventually make their way into the lake. Lake Macquarie Council wants to reduce this pollution by targeting the source. All building work carried out in the city must now be accompanied by erosion control measures.
We will require some statement or plan, depending upon the circumstances, to be lodged with the building application for the applicant to inform the council what measures they intend to take on that site. We will assess that and, where appropriate, apply conditions on the building approval.
This building site at Wood Rising Estate is a good example of what council is seeking. It's estimated a regular housing site will cost around $300.
Any sediments that are washed down the site by rainfall is trapped in the trench and then filtered through the sediment fence so that those sediments don't reach the street gutters and then create pollution.
While this house has effective erosion controls, nearby builders haven't complied, and as a result, this stormwater drain is overworked. If property owners and builders don't adhere to the erosion control measures, then they could face tough penalties, which come into effect at the beginning of next year. On-the-spot fines of $600 can be issued under the Clean Waters Act, or in extreme cases, council can take the matter to court. Information on the new policy is available from council. Jodie McKay, NBN News.
These are the ideas of final year design students from Newcastle University. Their work is on show at Newcastle City Council. Industrial designers are the people who come up with the ideas for most of the products we use every day.
Design is one of those things in life that most people aren't aware of. Everything from the shoes on your feet to the toothbrush you clean your teeth with in the morning to the tube, how you use it, your knife and fork, your plate.
Once the product is made, it's up to the graphic designer to tell us about the latest goods on offer.
The graphic designer markets that product. He communicates the awareness of that product to a community. If someone wanted to sell a particular product, it's no good having the world's best product if you haven't got community awareness.
Among the designs on show, an AIDS campaign and a marketing strategy for the Olympic Games. The exhibition will continue tomorrow. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
"20-year-old Gary Thorley is regarded as one of Speedway's rising stars. In his first year of competition, he won the state title. He puts his early success down to the thrill of going fast.
I just go out there and if I roll, I just hold it flat all the way around if I can.
But that heavy foot has already cost him dearly. After taking the checkered flag in a race in 1991, he ended up upside down. His car was so badly damaged that he had to sit out last season. However, the weight has made him even more determined. Brother Brian is currently ranked number 2 in New South Wales and won't hear of his little brother beating him.
We're against each other pretty well, but when we come back in the pits, we're mates again, so you've got to be like that, otherwise you wouldn't go as hard.
Brian and Father Lloyd, a former national champion, are working to get that little extra power from Brian's car. And Lloyd hasn't ruled out the possibility of making a comeback to form a Thorley trio. But he admits he would have trouble finding that competitive edge.
That's the problem for me as far as if the boys are there and I see them in front and they're going good, it's awful hard for me to try and pass them.
And due to last week's rain, the Motordrome 18th birthday celebrations were put on hold, so the big cash Demolition Derby will also be held tomorrow night. "22-year-old Shaun Davis from Bar Beach has been working a juggling act with a difference, having to study for his final university exams and continue swimming training. But time in the books doesn't appear to have slowed him down. Shaun currently leads the Nutrigrain Open swim point score by such a margin, it seems only a major injury can stop him from winning. Luck hasn't always gone his way. Although he's led every race back to the beach, he wasn't always the first to cross the line.
Yeah, I was out in front and unfortunately missed the wave. But that's part of surfing and you just got to accept that, and that was last week and now you move on to this week.
This afternoon the Dixon Park surf was almost flat. Shaun hopes it's a vastly different scene by tomorrow.
The stillwater swimmers have a big advantage when it's flat like this. I'd prefer to see about a 4 or 5 foot wave, nice long bank and a bit of a chop that takes the edge off them and gives me a bit of an advantage.
Also challenging for a lead tomorrow, Swansea Belmont's Ironman trio. Adrian Tobin, Tim Foran and Ryan Cook are all just one win off taking the lead in the under-16 Ironman. The three all train together and are sure one of them will pull off a win in front of a home crowd.